I've heard F1 called many things in my time, but I never thought I'd hear it called this from this very important chap. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali has said that the sport sets the global standard in sports entertainment. Yes, sport entertainment. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the term sport entertainment, I don't think of F1, I more kind of think of this. Now, I'm going to be fair here and give Stefano the benefit of the doubt. English isn't his first language, and he probably wasn't aware of the connotations of hitching the word sport and entertainment together. Now, had he said F1 is the most entertaining sport in the world, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I probably agree with him. But also, with the billions of dollars they're all towing behind them, you'd think as well they might know better. Now, even if he was unaware of the whole thing around the sport entertainment term, there is no denying that since Liberty Media has bought F1, it has been uplifted and more or less reinvented for a wider audience. And if your unit of measurement is revenue and eyes on the product, it has been a barnstorming success. But it has been drifting year by year, inch by inch, into the realms of something you might find in a movie or at a festival. In other words, entertainment. Even if Stefano had never even made this claim, it would be something that you can't ignore because it is happening right in front of our eyes. So let's try and unpack the whole F1 sport entertainment thing. And by the way, please subscribe. I'm Paul. This is the Gridgab. Welcome if you haven't been here before. Let's get into it. Now, when I first started watching F1 in the UK, it felt like the sport was in the same category as snooker or cricket or darts or fishing. Incredibly dull and tedious to the mass population, but there was a percentage of the population who found it massively exciting and were enormously passionate about it. And the people who were interested in F1 found it the most exciting sport in the world. Entertainment wasn't even at the forefront at all. If anything, it was just a byproduct. If there was an exciting race, fantastic. If not, well, that's life. Then fast forward to when Liberty Media bought F1 in 2017, something quite interesting happened. In the years following the purchase of F1, the mass population thought of F1 as cool, or fire, as the young people say. But straight away, we can't deny that if F1 is to survive and be healthy and be prosperous, it needs to have a steady stream of new, preferably young fans discovering the sports every single year. And to these new fans, they're excited, they're besotted by the whole thing, so they buy merch, attend races, cover it on social media, all of those things. They literally advertise F1 for them. Now, whilst F1 is bringing in that lovely, shiny new audience, it also has to make sure that they do cater for their loyal, traditional, more conservative fans, the people who have been watching for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And there lies the massive difficulty, is trying to balance both those markets and make sure that both are interested and fulfilled. Now, as someone who's watched F1 since the 90s, there is no doubt that there has been a breath of fresh air brought into Formula One, and that there was a point where it was starting to get a little bit fusty. And yet sometimes I do wonder if it is swaying more into the entertainment side of things than it probably should be. Now, at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, I thought this was a massive improvement over last year. They ironed out some of the creases and toned down some of the overselling from last year. Now, there's nothing wrong with making a Grand Prix a massive event and a spectacle within reason, but there have been times where Grand Prix and their showiness and what they've put on has just crossed over into silliness, is probably the best word for it. The fake marina at Miami, for example, is just burned into my brain forever. And also, I'm sorry, but those boxing style driver intros, they've got to figure out something different there, because in my opinion, that is just the most cringe thing we're currently seeing. And it's great that they've given it a go, they've tried something, but it just doesn't work. It does not translate to F1 nor the drivers. I mean, just look at their faces when they walk out. They clearly want to be somewhere else, and in fact they said that they want to be consulted about these kind of things moving forward. But then again, maybe I'm the one who's wrong. Maybe they're not going hard enough on this whole thing. Maybe they need to walk out with entrance music and have 30 seconds on a mic to trash talk, and maybe that would be a better spectacle in some people's eyes. Maybe with that they just need to go bigger and better. I mean, who am I to judge? But also with these cringe situations happening mostly at American Grand Prix, perhaps something that needs addressing is that certain things don't go over as well in Europe and rest of the world so much as it does in America. I mean, take the Las Vegas Grand Prix, for example. They have tried their absolute hardest there to make the city, the circuits, the main event of the weekend rather than the action going on the track. But that podium ceremony and interviews afterwards, it felt like we had to wait hours to get to that. By the time the drivers had finished celebrating with their crews, they were all bundled into a Rolls Royce, and we were treated to what it might look like after a driver's night out and they were getting a ride home in an Uber. Driven all the way basically to have a quick chat with Terry Crews in front of a water fountain. And by the time the interviews were over and the podium ceremony actually happened, it just felt like the excitement and adrenaline had just been zapped from the situation. The moment had passed. And it's that factor of wanting to Hollywoodize F1. It might go down very well in other sports, but it just doesn't seem to be translating here. But perhaps where the Las Vegas Grand Prix falls down is that F1 has given it free rein to present the sport, or the product if you will, in an event which whatever they see fit. Pretty much they've let them do whatever the hell they want. And in my opinion, really, it doesn't matter what country it is, F1 shouldn't be bowing down to anybody. And also, the accusations of putting entertainment above sport isn't helped by the announcement that all the 2025 liveries would be unveiled at a single event at the O2 Arena in London in February. Now, I actually don't have a problem with the big pre-season events where they bring out all the cars for everyone to see all at once in the flesh. It's actually quite good. But to do just that alone and scrap the individual team launches, I think, is a seriously bad move. The individual livery launches are absolutely massive, not just for the sponsors, but for the teams as well, particularly the smaller ones, as this is a chance for them to dominate the F1 news headlines for a few days at least. The coverage like Sauber or Williams would get is enormous. And also, by that point in February, the F1 fan base is dying of dehydration of F1 content. I mean, by that point, there's barely anything happening, and you're living on this drip of tiny news that you have to kind of inflate for your own survival. That little 2-week period where the teams are revealing all their liveries, to some fans, that could be one of the best times of the season. It's just so exciting to see everything get up and running again. And so, to get rid of all of that and replace it, which is quite clearly a cash grab, seems foolish. And considering what the ticket situation was like, well, it was kind of like the F1 version of what happened with the Oasis reunion tour. So my big question is, why can't you do both? Why can't you have the individual launches and then have the event sometime afterwards as well for everyone to see the cars all in the flesh? It would still sell out, it would still get the attention, and it caters to the needs of the entertainment side and the sport and business side of the teams as well. And by the way, I do love that Ferrari are just ignoring this and are going to do their own individual launch in Italy anyway. The sheer audacity to ask Ferrari to launch their car in a glorified tent in East London away from the holy land of Maranello is ridiculous. And you know what? Fair play to Ferrari, because this is why we love them. And by the way, talking about F1 leaning more into the entertainment side, I really don't know where to get started with the whole Brad Pitt F1 movie thing. And because of all the big scenes that they filmed at Grand Prix over the course of the season, you kind of more or less know what to kind of expect or what's going to happen. The scene that they were filming in Vegas where Brad Pitt did this dramatic collapse after crashing his car is just ridiculous. You've got to see it. Now the thing is, I'm not here to be a grumpy old fart and say that F1 should not be leaning on entertainment at all. F1 should in fact still have to embrace entertainment to keep this conveyor belt of fans rolling in. That's just the truth of it. But by setting the bar so high in terms of action, drama, spectacle, and just unmissable things that could happen, I do wonder if F1 is perhaps shooting themselves in the foot slightly. Because sometimes races are just flat, sometimes nothing happens, sometimes it's so predictable that you wonder why you even bothered watching. F1 can be boring, it can be mind-numbingly boring, but that's fine, because it's balanced out by the totally organic excitement and highs that do happen. And if you can't find them, perhaps you're not looking hard enough. Maybe you need to look beyond the top 4 teams and look lower down the order. Also, the same with drivers as well. I mean, take football, for example, or soccer if you're in the US. If there's a 0-0 draw, people just accept that. It does happen, it's boring, but it happens. But you do wonder if Liberty Media ran football or soccer, they would panic and do things like make the goals wider and give footballers extra speed or something so that they can run faster in extra time. Who knows? Just do all these little things to just manufacture excitement, so you cannot have a 0-0 draw under any circumstances. And the bar being set so high for excitement, also fueled by sometimes contrived moments in Drive to Survive on Netflix, some watch a season of F1 and think, is this it? Is this really what I've been waiting for? Where's all the wall-to-wall action that I saw on Netflix? Now the thing is, anything that gains sudden mass appeal and is suddenly considered cool and the new in thing, it has a steep rise, it levels off, and then it begins to fall. And I do wonder, with F1, are we going to see something similar to this before 2030, for example? Now I love Formula One, it's my absolute passion, but it is foolish to think that anything is going to rise and rise and rise continuously forever. No matter how much people at F1 or Liberty Media will tell you with their fancy PowerPoint presentations and graphs. Now, thankfully for F1's sake, the 2024 season has been fantastic. It has been an absolute spectacle with its wide variety of winners and just unpredictability race to race. And this will then hopefully make for a more interesting season of Drive to Survive. The action and drama is on a plate, so you won't have to manufacture anything for the viewer. It's a pretty difficult season to screw up, really. But had 2024 been a repeat of 2023 and 22 when it had just been the Max and Red Bull show, I do wonder if F1 might be in a spot of bother right now. After the regulation changes come in 2026, as is the standard recently, one team gets it right and just kind of dominates it for the next 2, 3 or 4 years. It's happened before and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. Now a couple of predictable years in F1 followed by some poor Drive to Survive series, could this be the thing that triggers the tailing off of interest in Formula One? Now, of course, with F1, you always think, just please be entertaining. Let's go into this race and let's hope the action on track is what we hope. Let's just be entertained, not by everything that's going on, but just by what is happening on the circuits. I'm not sitting there thinking, God, I hope they have a good celebrity waving the checkered flag or some famous person doing the interviews afterwards. And so I wonder now, is F1 at risk? Because they've been shedding the traditional conservative fans because they've been going more into this showy presentation that they've been going through. And sure, yeah, you might attract some new fans who attend races, buy a Lando Norris cap, take some selfies, but then they get bored of it and then they move on to the next thing. And it's those more conservative long-time fans that I mentioned which could be quite useful in helping F1 dig themselves out of trouble should a fall actually happen. In fact, it will be very interesting to see how this era of F1 will be remembered in, 10, 20 years. What exactly it will be remembered for. And like I said, it's been a great season, one of the best in years, but I just have this feeling that we're heading closer to the point where it's going to peak and then drop afterwards. And F1 is going to perhaps see a fall in popularity again. And if that does happen, F1 is going to need a bit more than sport entertainment to help them out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe. And as always, I'm Paul and I'll see you later. Cheers.